of good things are being said.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's just such a pain because like those things should be on the live. But yeah, so
absolutely.
we're live right now.
Oh, good.
So yeah, we were just talking about where we're at right now, and I was explaining that I've gone through some abuse and um well, psychological abuse in my old job that I had before.
Hmm.
And yeah, basically she started like doing things that were just not right.
Hmm.
Um and not just her, there was also the owner that started, you know, if we owe a certain amount to a tenant at that point,
Hmm.
they would not they would not say anything to the tenant, and they would keep me from saying anything to the tenant,
Huh.
which yeah, which to me was stealing money basically, and I could
Mm.
not agree with that. So I was just feeling really bad about myself
Hmm.
because it was just so not right.
Is you had to get out of there. You had to get
Yeah,
out of there. I was just
yeah.
yesterday talking with okay. I'm going to there's certain things I can't say, but I was talking with a writer who writes for
Okay.
television,
Yeah.
and they were working on a show recently, a
Mhm.
Canadian show with a
Okay.
very, very toxic work environment. And I was
Yeah.
really surprised because I thought after Harvey Weinstein, I thought there was a big movement in the film industry and television industry to get rid of toxicity. And it has worked like so many places. Like my daughter
Yeah.
is working on a show right now called Run the Burbs,
Okay,
and it
cool.
is great. Like people are respectful from the lead actor, the star, to the lowliest PA. Everybody's just
Okay.
really respectful to each other and nice, and that's the way it should be everywhere. It's like it shouldn't be a surprise. It shouldn't be
Yeah.
like, whoa, this is amazing. But the experience that my friend, the writer, experienced on this show, and it's a big show on TV right now, and I wish to God I don't want to out this person, but I
Okay.
want to. I'm not sorry. I want to out the person, but I'm not going to,
Okay.
because I really do think that the person who's making this show should be held to account. You know,
Yeah.
and it's so. And the problem is, I understand, and this person that I know, um, I'm trying to make sure I don't say anything that accidentally outs this person. But this person that I know
Yeah.
has gone to the people higher up
Okay.
many times. And he's also gone to the union many times. And there hasn't been support because the show is very big and powerful and the people involved are powerful.
Yeah.
And in that case, that this person just had to leave,
Okay.
and that shouldn't be the way. And I understand that. I've been there. Like I left Soul Pepper. Like no, I didn't leave Soul Pepper. They didn't ask me back. Sorry. That's I was about to take the high road and show what a hero I am. But no. They didn't ask me back, but I was okay with it because
Yeah.
I was there at a time when Albert Schultz had created an environment that was kind of toxic for people, and
Yeah.
even though really supportive of me, and I did appreciate it at the time. Um, I saw hints of things, but I didn't see the whole picture. So I understand how these environments survive. Like a person like me in that environment at Soul Pepper is like, I think something's off, but I
Yeah.
can't really tell. When actually things are actually much worse than I could anticipate, and
Yeah.
the people who suffered, the people who were abused by Albert, I'm sure some of them are looking at us going, "How could you not know? How could you not say anything?" And my attitude is, trust me, if I'd seen something, I would have said something. I would have, but
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
didn't see enough to be sure, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that that's partially one part of the problem too. You have people who are probably working at that place you were talking about who they kind of see it, but they're not really sure, or they're too afraid because they don't want to
Yeah.
lose their jobs, which I understand.
Yeah.
You know?
I definitely get it, and I spoke to a few of the employees there, and they went through something similar. And
Mhm,
at some point, I was just like crying, and I asked this person, I was like, "How do you do it? How do you not care about not being accepted?" I think what my issue is like is I didn't felt accepted in there,
mhm,
and it affected me more than it should.
mhm,
But like I looked at him and I was like, it was a guy, and I was
mhm.
like, how do you come to work and you wake up every morning, you come to work and you're like, I'm gonna just do this and go back home, like nothing happened.
Yeah,
And I was like, I cannot do that. Like my personal values and my will is just not wanting it.
absolutely. Very good.
And and I just couldn't do it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's just I'm one of those people that just can't.
And to that end, to support what you just said, I want to tell everybody within the sound of our voice what I told a friend of mine who was being bullied by a director. So this person was being bullied by a director, and I saw it happening. And this person was very upset. And we were talking, and I said to this person, "You have more power than you think you do." And this person said, "No, but I don't know what to say because, I'm so afraid." And I said, "Look, look, look, I will stand by you, but I can't speak for you. The
Yeah.
moment you speak up, I will stand by you, but I can't speak for you. So you have more power than you think you do. You will have more allies than you think you do. And
Yeah.
if something becomes untenable, your power is to walk away.
Mhm.
That is a huge power. And that's an important power to wield. I've
Yeah.
done that. I left Stratford, man. I left Stratford in the middle of the season. I was just, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because this is not like Stratford has changed a lot. So Stratford is a wonderful place to work now. And
Yeah.
I saw like a ton of shows there this season. They were fantastic. Like Les Belles Sœurs was amazing. I saw
Mhm.
Richard II was fantastic. So I preface this by saying that Stratford is great. Go see their next
Yeah.
season because they're amazing. But back in 1995, it was very different. I was hired to act in the festival, uh, not because Richard Minette wanted me there, but because Marty Meriden, who was an amazing director who passed away recently, Marty Meriden, she wanted me to be in the season. And she's amazing. She was so kind to me and so generous with me, and that was so wonderful. And I loved working with her. She was an amazing director. But everybody else at Stratford was not welcoming at all. I was the only person of color out of 100 actors, and Richard Minette would invite young actors who had never been to this festival before. The first night, okay, your first night there, Richard Minette would invite you to his house as a welcoming sort of offer gesture. So I'm there and I go to his kitchen and I say, "Hey, Richard Minette, thank you very much for having me in the season." And Richard Minette turned to me and said, "Oh, if it was up to me, you wouldn't be here." I was like, "Okay, you know what? It's good to know where we stand. It's fine."
That's so cruel.
Exactly. It's cruel, but it's honest. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay, cool. So we're
that's
not
true.
friends. Okay, cool. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
I can work with people who are not my friend. That's fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I do the season, and then a play that I wrote called Riot about the Young Street riots in Toronto in 1992. It was picked up by
Yes.
the Factory Theatre to open their season, and they wanted me to star in it. And so I was like, "Oh, this is fantastic!" But I would have to leave Stratford to start rehearsals.
Yeah.
So I told them, and in equity, you just have to give them 2 weeks' notice so that they can find someone else. So I went to I can't remember who, someone in the office. I said, "Okay, by the way, I just want to give you my 2 weeks notice to let you know that, I'm going to be going someplace else." And the person said, "I don't think we can let you do that." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, no, people ask to leave Stratford all the time and we don't let them." And I said, I have a job to do. So I want to give you my 2 weeks notice." And she said, "Well, you should talk to Richard Minette." So Richard Minette calls me into his office. And he says, "So what's going on?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I've got this gig. I'm going to be acting in this play at the factory. So I'm just giving you my 2 weeks notice because we're going to start rehearsal in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can let you do that. And I said, what? He said, actors, they ask all the time to leave. And it's just, we can't because it's so disruptive to the play. We don't let actors leave. And I looked at him, and for a second, I thought, am I being kidnapped? Like,
Yeah. Like,
is this like an episode of like, America's Most Wanted? I'm going to be found in the basement, like strapped to a table or something. Like, so I said, okay,
oh my
well,
God.
I literally stood up and said, tell the understudies, make sure that somebody takes over my understudies because you're going to have to start rehearsal for that soon. And Richard Minette said, well, we'll see. And I left, and I was just like, huh. That was just that sense of entitlement of like, why
Yeah.
would you want to leave Stratford? My God, Stratford's the best place to be in the world. Why would you want to leave? And I was like, because it's toxic, because I felt like I was unwanted,
Yeah.
because I felt like, and also too, like back then, Stratford was toxic in so many ways with other actors sabotaging each other
Yeah.
because they wanted to get the next big role.
Mhm.
It's just an environment that was set up by management. And also too, it's something fundamental about being human too. Like human beings, even if I'm sure like, Anthony Cimolino is a great artistic director. He's really, really great. And he fosters an environment of acceptance and real concern about the actors, which is great. But human beings, they go and do human being things. And I swear to God,
Yeah.
I'm sure right now there are actors who are jealous. There are actors who, try to, put themselves above others because that's being human. But
Yeah.
at least the company tries to foster a place where you feel respected, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And so, yeah,
Like that.
fine. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's very important. Like the company needs to be able to make it safe.
Mhm. And
Especially
so,
when you're an actor. It's a basic thing. Like
yeah,
you're here to be vulnerable and
yeah.
like for give a good not presentation but
No,
like
no. And you were really good at that. I remember you doing some work in the class, and you were
yeah.
fantastic at opening
Thank
yourself
you.
up to being oh, you were amazing. I remember a couple of scenes that you did where I was
Yeah.
just like, damn, girl, good for
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
And like that's the perspective that I had of me acting was totally different. I was like,
Mm.
I can't do this. Like
Yeah,
I
no.
I I am judging myself way too much.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm coming around that. Like I'm working on myself a lot and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So like I mean, even me doing this, and that's what I was talking to Jack last weekend, is that um even for me to come on camera like this and do a podcast is just very difficult because I get not fright, not stage fright, but like I just start doubting myself and I'm like, can I really do this? Like,
Yeah.
and then at the end of the day I'm just like, you know what, I'm doing for fun. I'm doing it
Yeah.
because I want to learn. I'm doing
Yeah.
it because I want to share with other people on a platform,
Hmm.
and that's what I want to do, and that's what I've wanted to do since before even I went to study
Yeah.
acting. So
And you know what I did? I turned around my thinking where now I hunt for things that frighten me.
yeah.
I did. What were some of the things I did? I hosted a CBC radio show for a while because I was just
Oh
like, they asked me to do it, and that terrified me because radio is so different from
yeah.
acting. Because when you're acting in a play, you've got 2 weeks rehearsal, and you get to learn how to say the lines. Whereas on
Yeah.
CBC radio, you have to get the names of countries and cities perfectly the first
Yeah.
time, Haudenosaunee, If you're saying Haudenosaunee, you got to say it, and there's a way to pronounce it, and it's the CBC
Yeah.
way, and if you don't say it right, people will write in and complain. And so I did it, and I was horrible at it. I was terrible. I was terrible. But that's okay. Like, you
But
know,
did you learn something out of it?
yeah, I
Yeah,
totally
so
learned
that's
something.
what's worth it.
Yeah,
That's the whole reason of this is just
yeah,
learning from other
yeah,
people that are in the industry, obviously, because that's who I've interviewed so far.
yeah.
But you know, it's like I feel like maybe once I'm comfortable doing these lives and everything, I might start looking more for acting job again.
Yeah.
I did had an agency before, so it's not like I can't get another one.
Yeah.
Um, it's a lot of work, but
But also too, there's been an actors strike,
yes,
and
also.
yeah, yeah. And so right
Well,
now
isn't it over now?
it's just over.
Yeah,
So it's going to take a while for the industry to sort of like get back to where it was, but it's going to boom for a little while. So
yeah,
for a little while, it's going to be crazy busy, and then it's going to settle down to back to normal.
yeah.
But that's going to be like next year.
Yeah, I can't wait,
Um,
honestly. I'm just like I've been I mean, I feel like maybe they've been pushing a lot of shows release because of the strike, and like now we've got like two really good shows that I watch a lot, like Bridgerton.
yeah,
I love Bridgerton.
yeah,
It's a feast.
yeah,
It's such a feast.
yeah. That's
Um
Shonda Rhimes, right?
yes,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is. I
yeah,
love her. I
yeah.
love her. She's really good. Like so
She's a,
far both that show and the other show that's it's Queen Charlotte, I think.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that show too was really good. Like I actually cried for that show.
Mm.
It's actually really well done. Um
I'm
but
jealous for that guy, that young black actor who like all of a sudden he became the hottest thing
René
on
Jean,
TV.
something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, whatever.
He-
I used to be
yeah.
that young. I used to have hair.
Yeah. Well, you
Um,
know what? He is hot.
he's a great
And,
actor.
and I have a boyfriend and I can say he is
Yeah,
hot.
yeah. Please, I
There's
can even
nothing
say he's
there.
hot. And he's hot. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
And your
But
boyfriend would say it too if he could. He would.
yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure he would.
yeah.
If
He'd be
he,
like,
I
yeah,
don't think
yeah.
he's watched Bridgerton. I don't think, and I've been
Mm,
trying so hard to make him watch it because it's like it's so good.
yeah. I
Like
yeah, I really do. We like America is in a real golden age of TV on streamers,
yeah,
on
that's true.
streaming networks. They've really created some amazing television. But at the
Mhm.
same time, it's created an environment that led to the actor strike and the writer strike. Partially, I mean, people are talking about AI and stuff, and that's an
Yeah,
issue. But the big issue is that Netflix is this black hole of content, and it just eats up everything, and it doesn't spit out any profits to the actors. And they're
yeah,
creating and not just Netflix, but there's Paramount Plus, and there's Amazon, and
Mhm.
there's Apple, and there's Disney. Um, and so there are all these streamers that are making incredible shows that you have there are like, the top tier shows that they soak up all their money. And then they've got the secondary tier shows that kind of get some money. And then they've got the lower tier shows that get no money at all.
Mhm.
And the top tier shows are the ones that, get news, make the news on Entertainment Tonight. But those are not the ones that are necessarily watched as much as like there are some shows that are watched more and bring more subscribers than the top shows, but we don't know who they are, and they're
Yeah.
not accountable about around it, and there's no residuals. And so I'm really curious to see what the actors deal ends up being.
Mhm.
But the other challenge is that in Canada we're not prepared at all. I think that the government did a really smart thing in mandating that streaming services, if you're going to stream in Canada, you have to have an office here, you have to do some Canadian production.
Yeah.
I know some Canadians complain about it and stuff, but that's going to save the bacon of Canadian actors and directors and writers.
Yeah.
We're because broadcasters like Rogers, they don't make shows anymore. Like
Mhm.
CTV makes, maybe a handful of shows. I don't know. And CBC is the last bastion. And the CBC, I'm telling you, like, I mean, I have a lot of respect for the CBC, and I will defend the existence of the CBC with my life. I will.
Yeah.
But they are challenged with what they can produce. They're not necessarily going to produce shows like Bridgerton,
Yeah.
because it's just expensive.
Which
Um,
is sad because like since I've been in TFS, I've been writing a script based on a on a book,
Mhm.
a French book
Yeah,
from, and it's the writer. She's a Québécoise,
right.
and
Who's the writer?
yeah. Sorry, the writer.
Who is the writer? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. So I actually I feel really bad right now because I don't remember her name.
That's okay. Because
Let
I'm
me
just going to pull up
just
my phone and Google. Hold on a second.
yeah. I'll Google it too. So it's called. Do you understand French?
Ah, oui, un peu. Oui,
Okay,
je comprends un peu. Ouais.
so Fille de Lune,
Okay.
so
Fille de
Daughter
Lune.
of the Moon.
Out of the moon?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll look it up.
So Elizabeth Tremblay, and I've read those books. I
Yeah.
think now I might have read them like 5 times. Um, which I actually love them,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like there's a certain intelligence in how it was written,
Mm-hmm.
and I really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, you
and
know what?
I feel like that's a waste of like not a waste of how can I say that? Like I feel this book should be made into a TV show or something.
Okay, after this podcast, I'm going to give
Yeah.
you like a some professional tips on exactly
Okay.
how to get a successful pitch ready for the
Mhm.
CBC, because this is a CBC show, you know,
Okay.
or it's not going to, like, CBS isn't going to do it, it's going to be CBC,
Yeah.
and there's certain things that you can do to make sure that you've got the best possible chance to get it in front of someone at the CBC, and to give you a chance to get it in development.
Okay.
And
Cool.
there's a lot of competition, because I'm doing that right now with one of my
Yeah.
own shows ideas. Yeah, yeah. So, and I'll tell you exactly what I've been told and what I've learned. Absolutely. I'm
Okay.
not going to do it on the podcast because it's special knowledge and you should pay to
To get that knowledge.
get that knowledge.
This
Absolutely.
is an
But
exclusive.
but one of the things I can say on the podcast is, the CBC is created by our tax dollars to tell
Yep.
our stories and to keep our culture.
Mhm.
And it's really important, because without the CBC, we would be inundated with American culture. And then within 5, 10, 15 years, we would see ourselves as another state of the United States of America. Like, our culture is so important for our national sovereignty,
Yeah.
really important.
I was
And
gonna ask you because I watched you sent me a link before the podcast started,
yeah,
and I watched it like I watched a full video
yeah.
while I was getting ready for the podcast,
Okay.
and I was like, where do you stand? Because it seems to me like, at the beginning, the girl and the guy are like talking in the kitchen,
Hmm.
and or dining room kitchen,
Yeah,
and she seems very opinionated,
yeah, yeah,
and she has like a very strong knowledge of what surrounds her,
yeah,
and I feel like it's a bit of like a mixed match of like different opinions, different values, and different
yeah.
understanding of
Mm.
what's the environment
Yep.
that they're living in,
Yeah,
um and I really enjoyed it, and I don't always enjoy those type of shows,
yeah, yeah,
or like
yeah,
or
yeah.
videos.
Hmm.
And um, where do you stand with representing? Um, well, you're in Ontario right now,
Yeah, yeah.
correct? Yeah. So where do you stand with Ontario and Quebec? Because I know
Oh,
there's a
I'm
big like
I'm
yeah.
from Ottawa, man. I
Or-
like I grew up, with lots of francophone friends, but also too,
yeah.
back in the 70s, I grew up at a time when, as children, the Anglophone children and the Francophone children boys, not girls, boys, we would constantly fight each other.
Okay.
The moment you saw the Francophone kids, you would throw snowballs at them. Well, I wouldn't, because I was the black kid. I was like, all my Anglophone friends were like, "Hey, there's some French kids. Let's throw snowballs at him." And I'm like, I'm black.
Okay.
Like,
I
Why
can't
would I
do
do
shit about it.
exactly? It's like, you're gonna do
Yeah.
this to me one day. No, 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 no. No, no. Not just I don't know them. They don't know me. Why would I throw snowballs
Yeah.
at a French kid? So, but growing up in Ottawa, there's always been a lot of tension, not only between the francophones and anglophones, but also between the franco-ontariens and the Québécois. They're like
Yeah.
quite a bit of tension, which I learned later on, and what that tension was. And
Me too.
yeah, I
In a really
know.
weird way.
Yeah. Well, how did you learn about it?
Well, I was on a dating app
Mhm. Mhm.
and I started talking with this guy and like we were just talking about shows that we were watching and most of the shows that I watch
Mhm.
are like English shows. But
Mhm.
then I'm also from Quebec.
Right.
And this guy was like throwing shit at me because I was I can't watch
Right.
shows from Quebec. So like I just don't get as attached to the characters.
Yeah.
Um
That's
and
fine.
it's just not my style of cinema.
It's your
Um
opinion. You can watch
yeah.
whatever you want,
Yeah.
you know?
We were like he was like throwing shit at me cuz I couldn't watch French cinema. So I was like that's so weird like
Nah.
and
Look.
that's when I noticed there's so much and then after that I started noticing that there's a lot of people that are like we're in Quebec we should be French speaking
Yeah.
French and like even
Mhm.
emails in corporate emails and stuff like that
Yeah.
it's big. I didn't know it was so important
Well,
until that point.
I know, and I understand the historical context. So,
Yeah.
before we were born, and long before you were born, um, there was a lot of pressure on the Québécois to not speak English or not speak French. And
Mhm.
and also, like, if you were Québécois and you spoke French, like, there were certain jobs you were not allowed to get, and there were certain places you couldn't eat. And so there was a lot
Yeah.
of bigotry against the Québécois, which, of course, I empathize with, I understand, I've felt it, and I have empathy for that generation. But it was generations ago, you know?
Yeah.
But like the 40s, 50s, 60s, well, I mean, that's what Jean Lesage and the Quiet Revolution did. It was the beginning of the birth of the modern Québécois, which was really important. And so I understand the historical context, and I'm very sympathetic to the Québécois when it comes to language. I do feel that, of course, there are radicals within Quebec who want to take it too far. There
Yeah.
are always going to be radicals who want to take it too far. There will be. Most Québécois that I know, they're proud of their language. They want to keep their language and make it survive, but also they don't care about the little things about, like, like, I'm trying to think of an example. But
Well,
what was that?
I don't particularly care about banners.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, there's this rule with banners that you have to make it like English. It's like
yeah,
I'm gonna just name numbers, but like 90% French and then 10% English if you're in Quebec.
yeah.
Like
It's like,
why?
okay, whatever. But there's also, but it is a part of, and of course, I don't pretend to speak for the Quebecois culture. I'm not Quebecois. I'm just talking from somebody
Yeah.
who has just read and appreciates Canadian history.
Mm.
I understand that because of the history of Quebec within the context of Canada, there is going to be a self identity where there's a desperate need to preserve that which is your culture.
Yeah.
And because also, too, like, um,
It's like the
th-
fear of being extinct.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with immigrant cultures who come to Canada and their children no longer speak Armenian or they no longer speak Chinese or whatever. There's this desire, you don't want to lose all of your culture, but you know that future generations, they're going to mix with they're going to create something new, a new culture that has nothing to do with your original culture. And so that's just a general fear. And it's the same thing, I'm telling you, it's the same thing with Anglophone white Canadians. They also fear the loss of their culture as more immigrants move to Canada
Yeah.
and influence the language and influence the culture. So there's generally within all human beings, and I think this is specifically Canadian, I think America is a different thing, and I'm not American, but I think we'll talk about that in a second. But I think in Canada there's a specific fear of losing the essential something essential about your culture that you're bringing to this new nation. At the same time, this thing that we call Canada is just it is creating something new that
Yeah.
no one's ever seen before and is so complex. And it's the same thing with First Nations culture. I'm not First Nations, but I'm gonna bet that First Nation people feel like, oh my gosh, we're losing our culture, our language is being lost, our memories are being lost. I think everyone in this country fears the loss of something old, but also recognizes that just some Canada's already become something new. It's already become, and we can't predict what
Yeah.
it's going to become in the future. And so there's a real tension, which I think, I try to recognize that in my art and my work, that in my plays that I write, that's something uniquely Canadian that is just a part of who we are. And we have to, I don't think we can eliminate it, but we just have to recognize it and moderate it. We just have to realize that there will always be a desire within human beings to maintain the past, but we do have to embrace this thing that we're becoming and just and recognize that there's no way of stopping it, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah, it's
America is
important. So sorry.
no, go ahead.
It's important to recognize what happened in the past, and it's important to remember it.
Hmm.
But it doesn't mean that the future can't
Yeah,
um have change in it,
yeah,
and
yeah,
or if not change, add-ons,
yeah, yeah.
right? So, and I think that's where it's getting a little confused into. It's like, and 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 that's not just like in terms of language or um
Culture and
culture. Yeah, it's also like in each and every person on this planet.
mhm,
It's big. It's a fear of being forgotten. The fear of being taken over by somebody else, and
yeah,
I think it's written in our roots because of the past. So I
yep,
don't think it's something that we can forget. I think it's something that we're just gonna have to add on to
mhm,
what we already have.
yeah. And ultimately, like uh, I fully support doing everything we can to preserve the French language in Canada, but not just in
Yeah,
Quebec, but also in Ontario and in Alberta and
yeah,
in BC and in New Brunswick and in, I I I feel that sometimes the discussion gets focused on Quebec, but I think that that's a discussion that, should happen across the country. And
yeah,
then again, it's something uniquely Canadian. Whereas in America, you're an American and that's
yeah,
it. And
yeah,
Abraham Lincoln freed the
yeah,
slaves, and JFK was shot, and there are certain things that you just accept, and you become an American, and you forget
yeah,
everything else, and you're expected to become an American, and that's the expectation,
yeah,
and that's there's just one identity, whereas Canada is really the idea of multiculturalism, of like doing this balancing act between all these different cultures. I think I prefer. I do. I really do. It's difficult though. It's really so hard, and it's
yeah.
complicated. It's not easy. So you know,
You know what? I moved to Toronto, which is in Ontario,
yeah,
and I lived there for 2.5 year,
mhm,
about
yeah,
that range of time, and then I just moved back to my roots.
mm,
I think, well, I've been through a lot of traumatic stuff over there,
yeah,
to start with, and then um but I feel like at some point I was just like, I need to come back here to what I know,
yeah,
you know. It was meant to happen. Not to say that I'm not gonna travel ever
mm,
again,
mhm,
but I do know that I like being here, and my boyfriend who's from Ottawa,
mhm.
um, he just up well, he used to live at up Montreal Road.
Yeah,
Montreal
I know
Road?
Montreal Road. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he wants to go back to Ontario. When
Mhm,
when we move from where we are right now, he
mhm,
wants to go back to Ontario, but I'm not sure. Like, I it's different for me. It's like it's I don't know how to explain it. It's just it seems bigger.
Yeah, and well, where in Ontario though? Where does he want to go to a big city?
Um, well, I told him that the only reason why I would move to Ontario is if we go to a similar kind of neighborhood,
Yeah,
as in Gatineau. I
yeah,
feel like maybe the where he was living before was like a townhouse
right.
with like a very small backyard and stuff like that. And God knows that here we have bigger backyards.
Hmm.
So um, I feel like I was like if we could go to a house that's similar to like a Quebecois or like Gatineau
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
neighborhood, it would
Hmm.
be better for me.
And because I was going to say there are smaller communities in Ontario with
Yeah.
French-speaking communities in Ontario, which could be more comfortable for you.
There's one in past Orleans.
Hmm.
Um
Yeah, Place de Leon. Yeah,
what's the name?
Rockville.
Rockville, yeah. Yeah. So that one I really liked it. And it's also really close because we can use the oh, how do you call it in English? In French it's the traversier.
Traversier.
Yeah, it's like a boat that you take from one
Oh
side
yeah,
to
the
the other.
ferry. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the ferry.
yeah.
So you can take the ferry and you can just cross the river. So we could also live in Quebec side on the Quebec side and
Yep.
like be
People do
right
it all the
next.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's yeah, it's I feel like it's a little bit bigger. Like my boyfriend always say like or I always tell my boyfriend everywhere in Ottawa is downtown.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it's
he's like,
true.
"No, there's like neighborhoods." I'm like, "What?"
But
Yeah. But yeah, it's very
why
different. And
why does he want to move to Ontario?
I think well, it's because his daughter lives there.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So my boyfriend is 10 years older than I am.
All right.
So he's already had a
Had a
daughter.
kid and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and her mom lives there, all her friends, and she goes to school over there. So it's
Where are they
just
living? Or just generally? Like
um
what part of Ontario? You don't have to tell me where exactly, but
I think it's close to Orleans.
Crossonia? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. Because I got two children and yeah, no, you don't want to miss too much of them growing up because you never get it
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I
Yeah.
definitely understand that and I think like that's where I'm able to compromise is that I understand him
Yeah.
wanting to be there for his daughter.
Yeah.
Um and you know, I respect that.
Yeah. But I'll tell you right now, once they reach 18, 19, 20, they don't wanna have anything to do with you. You just wanna get as far away from they wanna live their life. They wanna start living their life, and that's fine. So then,
Yeah.
once they're 18, forget you can go live anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we wanna have children, so
There you go.
he's gonna have to start all over. She's
Yeah.
11 years old now,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, so
yeah,
there's some time. But yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I loved having kids. I wanted to be a dad since I was like a 5-year-old. Like I always because it just seemed to me like so much fun. And I think
yeah,
as much as, my dad made being a dad look like fun, you know,
yeah,
sometimes. And it was really, we had a contentious relationship, but there were times when I really loved being fathered by him. And I thought it'd be fun to be a dad. And so when we had kids, I was ready for anything and everything. I was like, bring it on, man. I'll take the good, the bad, whatever. I'm so ready to be diapers. No problem. I'll do it. I mean, I don't love doing it, but I'll do it. It
yeah.
doesn't matter because we get to play afterwards once
My
the diaper.
boyfriend's like that. My
Yeah.
boyfriend's like that. He's like I wanna have other more children and, like,
Yeah.
I love kids, and it's,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
in a non-creepy way,
Yeah, I
obviously.
know. Yeah.
Like like,
Because
I
there
love
is a creepy
kids.
way. I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, me
But
too. Love toddler. Like I love raising a child. That was so much fun.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think I'm more strict, though.
Good. There's
I
got to be
think
one. That's good.
yeah, like, when I was younger, I couldn't imagine myself having kids.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But
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 now,
n but now that I've seen him with his daughter and everything, I'm like, I can trust
yeah.
that he's a good father.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, the experience of that made me trust him.
That's a nice feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and which I feel like my upbringing also brought me to think that I would never have children.
Why?
Not well, because my I never had a really close relationship to my dad.
Right.
We were very similar in terms of personalities, and
Right.
that made the relationship even more harder.
Right.
Um, but um,
Yep.
yeah, like it was just very difficult for me to be close to him and for him to be close to me. I feel like there's a lot of circumstances that happened,
Mhm.
and it just played out that way.
Mhm.
Um, and so for me, it was like I could never imagine myself putting a kid through what I've been through, and not just from
Mhm.
his side, also from my own personal experiences. Um,
Mhm.
and I just didn't feel like I had the tools to be able to raise a child.
Yeah.
So, but then growing up, you learn things,
Yep.
and you discover things about yourself,
Yep.
and I would say um, whether they're traumatic or not, you have to learn something out of them,
Yeah.
and that's gonna give you what you need, the tools that you need to teach
Yeah.
the kids that are gonna come to you.
And that's the thing. Like, I think um, what I learned is you are not your parents, and your child is not you, and there's a whole new journey that you go on
Mhm.
with your child, and it's very different from, and also each child is very different. So if you have
Yeah,
two children, you realize you're the same parent, you're doing the same things, but one child reacts to it this way and another child reacts to it that way,
yeah,
um and you do your best to sort of parent them as individuals, but sometimes you mess up and you make mistakes, and but as long as there is love, that's the best you can do. That's it. As
yeah,
long as there's love, you can make mistakes and you can screw things up, but as long as there's just a fundamental desire to love that child, and that's literally the best you can do.
yeah.
And
I
that's
don't
what
know. Do you watch a lot of YouTube?
do I watch a lot of I watch too much YouTube.
Yeah.
I
Well, I
gotta.
don't know what you watch, but there's this channel. It's Sam and Colby,
Mhm,
and they went on. I don't know your beliefs. I don't know if you believe in that or not,
mhm,
but they went to the Conjuring house,
mhm,
and they filmed there for a week, I think.
yeah,
Um, and they spoke to a spirit, and they asked, "What is life about?" And
mhm,
like, if you have something to say from the other side, like, what would you say to us, to
mhm,
everybody? And it said love,
yeah,
and it's just like it was just like okay,
mhm,
like that gives that I have questions.
mhm.
Yeah.
I recently had a friend pass away, and the thing that became very clear, because she suffered from a degenerative disease that she got really young, like she was in her 20s,
Okay.
and it just progressed and got worse and worse. But she had two kids, and she has
Did
a
she
husband
know?
who's,
Like,
yeah,
did she
yeah.
know she was gonna die? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, and it was one of those things, like even when she was in her 20s, it's like, the doctors are saying, well, this is not you know, she got it very, very, very young. So they were like, you're probably going to die soon, but she didn't, which is great. She lasted a very, very long time, but it was a very terminal illness. But she had a husband who was amazing. Like, I can't even talk about some of the things he did that was amazing, but he's oh man, he was an amazing human being. And she also had two kids who were amazing human beings. And then you just realize that, oh, so her presence in this world was to share her love and her spirit with the people around her who she cared about. And grew that grew within her children, that grew within her husband, and now that's being spread out into the world, where her children are doing charity work, and they're working to make the world a better place. And and that's kind of it. And then it's done, and then your presence of love, hopefully becomes like waves that just go through the world, and that's the best thing you can hope for, like, I
Yeah.
mean, I know I have some bad days where I'm not the best person to the person who's serving me at a restaurant. Sometimes I can be a little curt sometimes with servers, and I recognize that. So then I sort of pull myself in, but I realize that you're from watching her and her life. I just realized that no, the best that you can do is just try to love, and as try to love without judgment as much as possible,
Yeah.
and then check out. Then everybody checks out, everybody leaves, and hopefully what you've put into the world will foster even more love.
Yeah, it's important. I think, and that's something I'm learning to every day, learning to love without any
Mhm.
judgment.
Including yourself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I've been working on. I've been working on a lot of things.
You and me both, my friend.
Yeah.
You and me both.
Yeah. I
And
think
it's
life
funny.
is constant learning.
Yeah. No, I was saying to my therapist the other day, it really frustrates me that I know people who come from war-torn countries, and who escaped with their lives, and they're so full of joy. And I was born into this upper middle class West Indian family in Ottawa at a perfect time in history where there's great medical science and there's technology and there's smartphones. And then there are times that I'm just so sad. And then she said, don't compare yourself to others. Don't, that's like pointless. Like you can't, it's never ending. Like you
Yeah.
can, somewhere on the planet, there's the person with the worst life ever, somewhere out there, and you can't compare yourself to that. And somewhere out there, there's someone with the best life ever, and you can't compare
Yeah.
yourself to that. You're on your own journey, and you have to just make sure you give yourself the tools to love yourself.
Yeah,
I was
definitely.
like, okay, fine.
Well,
And
I remember you being very open about your therapist
yeah,
in classes.
yeah, yeah.
I remember you saying that it's very important
Mm,
to have a therapist, and it is.
yeah.
Um how has that been going for you?
Great. I mean,
Yeah?
you like it's really important to recognize that sometimes you can get the wrong therapist. But I got a very good one, and a therapy isn't for everybody. So for those of you listening to us, if you go out, get a therapist and they suck, it's not therapy necessarily that sucks. It could be that therapist, but also too, like some people might not it might not be right for them. But I find it's really important. It's like doing a checkup. It's like going to the gas station. It's like going to the dentist. Like if you have someone who looks at your teeth and makes sure that you don't have cavities, then you should also have someone who looks into your psyche and just checks to make sure that you've got the tools that you need to live the best life possible. And also you need someone to remind you that the goal of being human is not to be perfect. That's
Yeah,
not the point.
that's
Point of
true.
being human is not to be the perfect human being, and that there is no normal. There's no
Yeah.
like, everybody else feels this. Why don't I feel that? And the therapist will say to you, no, how do you know what people feel? You have no idea what other
And
people feel.
you know what? My boyfriend always tells me this, and it's like I don't tell him enough, and I hope he's not watching this because I'll give him right. But yeah, it's he always, because I, let's say like we're just having like an argument somewhere,
Mhm.
um, and it's in public or something, and
Yeah.
um, I'll be like, stop talking, like I'm getting anxiety, like people are looking at us, and he's like, yeah, well, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, who cares? And I'm like, well, I do. And he's like, why? I'm like, because people are gonna judge us. And
Mm,
he's like, how do you know what they're thinking?
you have no idea.
And
Yep.
I'm like, and my answer to him is always like, well, because I know I would.
Ah.
Like, I'm like, I would be like, can you do that somewhere else? Like, this makes me uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, and so yeah, it's true. Like, you never know what other people think.
And so you listen to your boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
Because it's true.
Sometimes.
I remember. Okay, I'm going to tell this story. I don't know if I should tell this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. So I'm going to tell the story. Okay, I'll tell it.
I'm
So
listening.
just about being judged, right? Because I
Yes.
remember when I was a young man, I was about 20. I was a very angry young man. And I was a young, angry young black man. and I got a job in Vancouver.
Okay.
And I got a job in Vancouver to act in a play. And my
Okay.
very first day in Vancouver, I arrived there in the afternoon, and I decided before I went to my accommodation. No, I went to my accommodation. I dropped off my jacket and my luggage and stuff. And then I said, I want to walk around Vancouver. Just want to walk around, just take a look, just take a look and see. And I was walking around Vancouver, and and it was really beautiful. It was so beautiful. Um, and I stopped because I wanted to get some supper and like grab a beer or something.
Okay.
So I was really tired, so I didn't want to walk all over the place. And I saw this bar, like I saw this bar in the corner, and I said, I'm going to go to this bar, and I'm going to sit down. I'm going to have a beer
Yeah.
and have a meal. So I walk in, and all of a sudden, all these white people just look at me, you know. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking just looking at me like, what's he doing here? Like, why is this black person in this restaurant? And at first, I was going to turn around and go away, but then I thought, you know what? No, I'm going to stay. Screw these racists. I'm going to stay and sit here, and I'm going to have my dinner and have my lunch. Okay. And so I'm sitting down, and I order a beer and I order a meal and I start eating. And I notice these people are all looking at me, but I also notice that there aren't that many women in the bar. There's like one woman in the bar, and she's sitting in the corner, and she's
Okay.
on the lap of some guy, flirting with him and stuff. And I noticed there are two old gentlemen. They look like, they are sailors or something, and they're, talking with each other. And I'm eating, and, and this waiter's coming up and checking on me and stuff like that. And I'm just like, at first, I'm like, hey, waiter, why are you talking to me? Because I'm a black man or whatever. How dare you? And I feel like all these eyes are judging me for being black. And I look over and I see those two old gentlemen. They start kissing. And I realize, oh,
It's a
I'm in
gay
a
bar.
gay bar. I had
Yeah.
no idea. They weren't looking at me because they hated me.
Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite. I was just like, oh. And so the guys look at me. I was just like, that's what you're. Oh, okay. Right. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to judge you. And just taught me a
Yeah.
lesson because I had a lens over my eyes that just
Yeah.
was looking for racism. I was looking for people to judge me because of my race. And I realized that, yeah, no, sometimes you have no idea why someone is looking at you.
Yeah.
And yeah. So that's that sense of judgment. Everybody has it to a certain degree, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and it's just to be honest, it's partially controlling it, managing it. Sometimes you have to just tell that voice to calm down,
Yeah.
but also sometimes that voice is necessary. This is the thing,
Mhm.
because it's actually a survival instinct,
Yeah. It's like when do I listen to it and when
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like there are times when if you walk into a racist bar and people are looking at you because they want to beat you up, you've got to know, you
Yeah.
have to be
You've
very
got to
aware.
realize that
Yeah,
pretty quickly.
yeah, exactly. So I understand exactly what your boyfriend's saying,
Mhm.
and however, I do understand exactly what you're experiencing, and you do
Yeah.
have to manage it, and also at the same time, it starts with, and I think, and I can't speak for your boyfriend, but
Mhm.
I think ultimately what he's saying to you is you are a beautiful human being who deserves to be wherever she wants to be and
Mhm.
who care what people think.
Yeah.
That's ultimately, I think, fundamentally what he's saying. Like, yes, people could be judging you, but he's looking at you going, but you're amazing, so fuck them,
Yeah.
even if they are judging
Yeah.
you.
I'll
Mhm.
ask him. I'll
Yeah,
be like, "Hey,
exactly.
Andrew told me this. Is that what you mean?"
Yeah,
But yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's what he's saying.
yeah, like definitely but yeah, it's been a learning curve for
Yeah.
me.
But also
Um
too, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt,
no, no
but
worries.
here's the thing too. Like, let's say next year you get hired to be in a Marvel movie, okay?
Yeah.
And then you become a big star. And then you're on the red carpet. And then people see your Marvel movie and then they start tweeting about how, oh, Marvel gone woke and how dare they hire a girl to play this and blah, blah, blah. And you have to be so strong and listen to your boyfriend so deeply to go, remember, I am a beautiful human being and who cares what they think. I think that's when you become an actor, you know, You're judged by more people, and you are being judged, like
Yeah, you are.
online. You're being
Yeah.
judged in the press. You're being
Yeah.
judged everywhere. And I honestly tell my young actors, don't read reviews. Don't read Twitter. Don't go doom scrolling as to what people think about your movie, because your job is not to please people. Your job is not to be liked. Your job is not to have millions and millions of friends all over the world who love your performance. There will be people who love you. There will be people who hate you. There'll be people who everything in between. And
Yeah.
that's okay. Some people love the Beatles. Some people hate the Beatles, and there's everything in between. The Beatles are
Yeah.
still a great rock group. They still make
They
great
are.
music. Whether you like them or not, it doesn't matter. And that's your job. Your job is to create the art and then make some more and
Yeah.
let people think what they think. And then you die. And that's it. That's it.
And then you sleep.
And then you sleep. Finally, you get to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely been a pretty big learning curve for me
Yeah.
personally, since TFS, since
Mhm.
like a lot of things happened in my life.
Yeah.
Um, but like you said, like when you're an actor, you have to be able to deal with so many criticism, and I think that's what I'm learning right now is like, how do I deal with that? How do I not believe those criticism, and then how do I make the difference between what people are telling me is true and what I know is true?
Really strong sense of self.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Just a real, and when I say sense of self, I mean having a real honest assessment of who you are, your good and your bad, and what you can do and what you can't do. And then because you're going to be judged on set, you could be judged by the director on set.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
director, the director could be a really good person who's really smart, but they're going to ask you to do something that you're uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
And you're going to feel judged or whatever, and you're going to have to say, okay, I've got to have a good sense of self and to be honest with that director. And if they're good and you trust them, then you listen and you follow through on what they asked you to do.
Yeah.
And you let go of your self-consciousness and worrying about being judged. You let go of it all and you just drop into the character and really try to follow through on what the director wants you to do.
Yeah.
But if the director is disrespectful, if they're an asshole, if they're demeaning to you, then you don't listen to them. And because of your strong sense of self, you say, okay, this director is dealing with issues that have nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Maybe their parents yelled at them when they were a child and they're taking it out on me. And that's not my problem. They have a wound that I can't heal by being a
Yeah.
better actor or doing what they want me to do. So then you listen to them and you think, okay, well, what does the story need, to tell this story? Forget about what the director is saying to you and how they're yelling at you, and just think, what does my performance need? I know what I
Yeah.
can do and I know what I can't do. And then I'll just do what I can do. And if they have a problem with that, just say, well, then fire me. You
Yeah.
know, we've done half the film so far. So if you fire me now, then you have to do reshoots. And okay, and maybe you can get that money, maybe you can't, but ultimately, I know what I can't do and I know what I can do. This is what I'm going to do, and speak to me
Yeah.
respectfully, or else I'll leave. You know?
And I guess like when you're very comfortable with that,
Yeah,
um, you can say it very
yeah,
firmly
yeah,
and
yeah,
stand by it,
without
and
being
that's
angry.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't think I'm at a point in my life where I can fully say I would be able to do that.
yeah. I know, and you got to get there. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. I got there through years of experience too, because after years of experience, you do get a really solid sense of what you can do and what you can't do, and what you don't want to do. And I remember there
Yeah.
was a director who tried to start yelling at me and she was trying to demean me and tell me how bad an actor I was.
Mm.
And it was like 2 days before we opened. So she was yelling at me saying, "You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You're a terrible actor." And I stopped and I said, "You know what? Okay, I might be a terrible actor, but you hired me and we're open in 2 days.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that I can do to see if I can fulfill your vision? But ultimately, if there's something I can't do, I can't do it." And without anger too. Like I wasn't angry with her. I was, not that I was sympathetic to her, because I don't think you should ever demean people. At the same time, me being upset with her or angry with her, like we open in 2 days. Like,
Yeah.
so ultimately, let me just practice what I can do and just nail that. And then anything she wants me to do that I can't do, well, I can't do it. So
Yeah.
maybe next time, or maybe next time you hire another actor, and that's okay with me because I don't want to be here anymore. You know?
Well, if you're going to tell me that you don't like my acting, that's what
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it because we're on live YouTube, but
Yeah. But yeah. And I know,
yeah.
like, I've absolutely worked with directors who were forced to hire me because the
Mhm.
producer wanted me, but the director didn't. As
Yeah.
long as you're respectful to me, you don't have to like me. We don't have to like each other. But as long as you're respectful, you don't demean me, you don't yell at me, you don't call me an idiot or whatever, that's fine. And I'll have a discussion with you, about the character and about what's expected. And if I can understand it and deliver it to you, I'll try. I'll do my best. And sometimes I can't, and that's okay. I've hired, like, there was a play that I directed and I wrote where I hired a best friend of mine. He's an amazing actor. And he was able to do 95% of everything the character needed and everything the story needed. And there was this one little thing that just, I don't think I communicated it well, or I don't think he understood it fundamentally as a human being.
Yeah.
And you just kind of go, oh, so he just fundamentally doesn't understand that experience that is in the character. Well, then I say, okay, well, forget about what I want you to do. How do you comprehend it? And then make it real for you. Make it
Yeah.
what you want it to be. And then give it to them. They're giving you 95% of the performance. If there's this 1 5% of the performance that just belongs to them that you don't understand and that doesn't make any sense to you, but it's theirs
Yeah.
and they love it, give it to them. It's fine. And the audience will appreciate the fact that the actor has done something that is just from the core of who they are as a person,
Yeah.
and and it's just them and it just belongs to them and not you. That's totally fine. you know
Definitely. And who knows, maybe it's gonna reach somebody else.
yeah,
That another person that's watching it
yeah,
is gonna think I've been through that the same way.
yeah.
Right? And so and that's why I think acting is misunderstood a bit.
Hmm. Yes,
um
a lot. It's
like
misunderstood.
yeah, I think people have in their head, they have this uh perception of acting as being as us actors being liars.
Yeah, yeah.
um
Drives me crazy.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And every time it's like this guy that I was talking to while I was dating online. It's like he
Mhm.
was telling me about the French language. For me, it's like, you know what, when you tell me actors are liars, i I have rage inside of me because
Yeah,
I'm like, no, it's actually the opposite. We're here to tell the truth.
yeah,
We're here to tell our truth,
yeah.
and hoping that it reaches out to somebody else
Yeah,
on the long run.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
And
said it
it's
perfectly.
based yeah, and it's based on our experience through life. It's like we understand scripts, we study scripts,
Hmm.
and God knows, like, actors that I've studied in TFS, God knows it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
You sometimes spend a lot of time just trying to figure out what one simple word means to you
absolutely. Yeah,
in throughout your entire life experience,
yeah.
and how you can portray it in a very honest way.
I
So, and I just feel like that's something that somebody that didn't study acting doesn't know.
You said
And
it perfectly.
yeah, and it's education.
Yeah.
It's a lot of education.
And I also know, like, people, even some people in the film industry don't understand what acting is, and they sometimes and they can't understand it because sometimes it's a mystery to people. But
Yeah.
ultimately, especially if you study like the Meisner technique, um, it really is being truthful under imaginary circumstances. So
Yeah.
finding a truth for you that makes sense to you of what you would be like if you were in this imaginary circumstance and how to be honest about it in the most real way. And that's what I love about acting. I think, and it's true, like there's a Meisner teacher who says that it's not just a great technique for acting, but it's a really great technique for life because it really drops you into really truly understanding who you are and being real and truthfully
Yeah.
yourself all the time, like even in life. And so that's one of the things I love about the Meisner technique. But yeah, no, it's I mean,
God
there are,
knows how much I've learned in TFS.
Yeah.
Just by learning how to be an actor, I've learned how to live life.
Yeah. And that's what I love about it. I
Yeah,
love
it's
that.
like you learn that your experiences weren't there for nothing.
Yeah.
It almost gives them a purpose.
Absolutely. Your good experience and your bad experiences, the most
Yeah,
terrible day you've ever had, has
yeah,
taught you something about how to be truthful in an imaginary circumstance. Like if, you know, you're playing a character whose dog just died. Well, I remember the worst day of my life and I remember exactly how I felt. And I want to be
yeah,
honest with the audience about exactly how I felt in that moment. And the moment you're honest about that feeling, then other people will recognize your truth and they will feel their own truth that
yeah.
you are communicating. Yeah,
And you
I
know what? I find that the best actors
yeah,
are the ones that are the most honest,
yeah,
even if they're not filming.
yeah, yeah,
They are, to me, they are the best actors because
yeah.
they are the most honest.
And you know, here's the thing that I love about acting and being on camera and being on stage is you get a chance to be honest, where sometimes in life, where your principal is a racist jerk and you can't say what you really think about him because he's your principal, you lie or you hide it or you hold it inside, or your
Mhm.
boss, you know, makes you feel like crap, but you can't say anything because it's your boss and you don't want to get fired.
Yeah,
Like in life you're forced to lie all the time, but on stage there's a way,
there's
there's
a
some,
truth.
yeah, there's a situation where you can just actually just be completely honest. And really
Yeah,
good writers, a really good script gives you the opportunity to share that truth with other people because the
yeah,
writer had that truth. So the writer had some truth that he makes into this fictional situation, and then you as an actor, you inhabit that truth and you communicate that truth to the rest of the world, where so many times in life you have to lie, you know.
yeah, definitely. And it's
Yeah,
that to me is, I think, why I had so many issues with life in general,
yeah,
is that I cannot lie.
yeah, it's hard.
And sometimes I'm just brutally honest.
Yeah,
And it's okay to be honest, but you have to learn how to be honest.
yeah,
And that's what I've learned. And it, but acting always has been what gives me this drive
yeah,
to go through life, because it's my punching bag.
yeah,
I don't know if it makes
yeah.
sense, but it's
No, it
like,
totally does. Absolutely. It makes you feel good, you know?
yeah, it's like you have
Yeah.
something that you need to exteriorize. And I don't know if I'm saying this well, but you need to let it out, and
Yeah.
it's good. It feels good. It
Yeah.
just feels, and that's why also you have to be feeling safe on a set, because
Exactly. Yeah.
you
And
are
that's
being very
why,
vulnerable about how you feel.
absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
why I get so upset with people who create toxicity on set.
Mhm.
Um, and because it's, you know, what you want is to create an environment where everybody feels safe, from the costume designer to the PA to the camera assistant to the actors. You want everybody to feel comfortable and that they can contribute and that they
Yeah.
can help to make the whatever it is you're working on the best it can possibly be. I like I said, that TV show that's on with the toxic person who's making it, it's a
Mhm.
terrible show. It's horrible. It's horrible. The scripts are terrible. I don't
Well,
think anybody,
might
people,
as well
not that
just
many,
name it.
no, I
I was
so want
testing you.
to. I'm not going to say it, but
You're good. You're good.
yeah, yeah. It's not Star Trek. I was on Star Trek Discovery, and
Yeah.
I did go on the internet once to complain about how I was treated, but it wasn't the cast or the crew. It wasn't the showrunner or the writers. It was um it was there was a change in management. Somebody new
Yeah.
came on, and then what happened was they wanted me to replace my entire performance because they thought it was terrible. And whereas Jonathan Frakes was like, he was the director and he loved my performance. He communicated to me that he really liked it. And if he
Yeah.
didn't like it, he was the director. He could have changed it. But he
Yeah.
was so generous with me and so complimentary. And I felt it was a little bit like it was too much of a dream come true
Mhm.
that Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek Next Generation likes me as an actor. It was like, I was too much like, oh, I'm going to wake up and someone's going to go, ha ha, it's a prank, ha ha, you know?
Yeah.
And all the actors on that show, especially the lead performer, I can't remember her name right now, but you'll get it for me in a second. But she was
Okay.
so generous and so wonderful. So I don't want to. I did go on a rant on the online a while ago, but it was just because after we shot it, after the experience of doing it, some management change happened, and somebody just really didn't like my performance, and then replaced it with somebody who's not my voice, and that really hurt my feelings.
I
So
mean, who wouldn't be hurt by
yeah,
that?
and it's like, but I still love the experience of doing it.
Yeah.
But if you see me on Star Trek Discovery, that's not my voice at all. They replaced it with
Mhm.
somebody else, an American actor who, good for them. And I don't feel upset about that actor. I would have taken that gig
Yeah.
if somebody had come to me and said, "Yeah, we need you to just replace the voice of this actor completely." I would have been like, "Okay,
Did you get
what?"
paid? Did you still get paid?
I still got paid, yeah. So, you know, it's just I can't complain about, like I still got paid, and I still had a wonderful time with the cast and the
Mhm.
crew. They were all amazing. The crew was fantastic. The director was amazing. The writers were fantastic. The showrunner was so kind to me.
Yeah.
Um, so the only thing, I just feel like my feelings were hurt. That's all.
Yeah.
And feelings,
And
you know,
yeah, and again, I come back to acting is such a big load of work.
yeah.
When you end up, I can just imagine how you felt with like being replaced by somebody else, or your voice being replaced by somebody else, because you were trying to be vulnerable.
Mm,
Just try to imagine you're having a conversation with somebody,
mm,
and it's at three party, and you're trying to be vulnerable towards your feelings, and
mm.
then you're constantly being like,
Yeah. Someone says no, no,
yeah,
you're wrong.
yeah,
No. Yeah.
yeah, and it hurts.
Mhm.
It
Or
hurts.
like like if you ever get a chance to be directed by Jonathan Frakes, take it because
Yeah.
he was like, let's do some improv. Let's talk about the character. Let's talk about what happened before this scene goes on. I was like, I love you, man. That's so
Yeah.
rare. It's so
I
rare that somebody
remember
can.
in acting class, I don't know who was the teacher, I don't remember,
Mhm.
but there was a class that we had, and
Yeah.
they showed a scene with
Mhm.
an actor that didn't know what was happening. So they were like coming into a room,
Yeah.
and they didn't know what they were doing before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they showed the same scene, but
Yeah.
then the character was like doing something before.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
felt so much different.
Right.
That
Yeah.
was incredible. That was like something I remembered. And I was
Yeah.
like, I have to apply this in my acting.
I did a scene. I'm going to name drop again, but I
Yeah.
did this scene with Tatiana Maslany on Orphan Black, where
Yeah.
like I was taking her to the main enemy's office, and
Yeah.
she was great. She was like, because I think my character and her character were enemies. We hated each
Yeah.
other. So right before every take, she would do a little improv with me, just talking to me, going, "I hate you. I'm going to kill you." And I would look at her and go, "Try, try. I've got you now. You're
Yeah.
dead," or whatever. And it was so great. So that the moment they said action, we were already in the scene, and we were already, at each other's throats. And she's
Yeah.
fantastic to work with. I'd love to do that again, but then I'd have to move to Hollywood and become a big star. And I don't want to
Oh
do
my god.
that. I don't want
But
to
you
do
know what?
that.
I've learned that,
Mhm,
and not just by Jack last week, but from other actors
mhm.
that have been to Hollywood, that it's a very different ambiance.
Yeah,
It's like
very.
it's not like it what it looks like in the movies.
No, no,
Like
not at all.
definitely not. And it's yeah. And
Yeah,
I mean, on that point, I feel like in Canada we're better.
yeah.
Not to brag about it, but I feel like when you're in an environment where everybody's trying to survive, it's really harsh.
And what I would say to anybody out there thinking about going to Los Angeles, you can, as long as you have a work permit, as long as you have a green card or whatever, you
Yeah.
can. But there aren't a lot of movies. Most movies out of Hollywood are not filmed in Hollywood. Most, like
Yeah.
there are some movies filmed in Hollywood, but not most of the films in Hollywood are shot all over the world, and a lot of them are shot in Vancouver and Toronto. A
Yeah.
lot. So
Yeah.
you can stay here. I tell my students like, um, you know, in the English speaking world, There's London, England, which is great for theater.
Yeah.
They do have a film industry, but it's not as big as it used to be. They have a big television industry, but you have to be British, right, to work in
Yeah.
it. And then you have New York, which is a great theater city, like the biggest in the world. And they do film in New York, but it's very expensive to get permits. And there's no tax breaks, so they make films there. So they do a lot of television there. But even then, even still with the television, it's a challenge to get work permits and stuff and filming, and it's difficult. And then there's Los Angeles, where it's the center of the film industry, and there are a lot of great opportunities there, but there's no theater really to speak of.
Yeah.
And again, people now, after the pandemic, people don't meet in person that much anymore. Mostly people meet on Zoom, and so if you're meeting on
Yeah.
Zoom, you can be anywhere in the world. Whereas in Toronto, you can act in film, television, uh, video games, opera, musicals, theater. You can do big theater, small theater. You could do anything. Radio
Yeah.
plays, audiobooks, you name it. Anything that an actor is being used for, you can do in Toronto.
Yeah.
And so, if you're Canadian, you can go to LA, and I've been to LA, and it's great. Like there's nothing wrong with going to LA, but if you want to work, you can get a lot of work here in Canada and in Vancouver, in
Yeah.
Toronto and Vancouver and Montreal too.
Yeah. Well, I've heard a few. Well, they're more like Hallmark movies that are filmed in Ottawa.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
I've been to
yeah, like
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But they're good too, so why
yeah,
not? They're good for experience. So
yeah. I was in a
yeah.
Hallmark movie where, because I like to listen to my lines with my Bluetooth headset in.
Yeah.
So before I do
Yeah.
a
Aren't
scene
you the
on,
one that I think you're the teacher that told us to do that?
yeah, I just listen
Yeah.
to my lines over and over again. I listen to my cue lines. So
Yeah.
I'll have my Bluetooth headset and I'll listen to my cue lines go, just, as a good way to prep for the scene, to make sure I feel very confident with the lines. And
Mhm.
so I'm listening to my lines, and then they say, okay, camera rolling, ready. So I do the scene and we finish. And then I go change to another costume. And then I realize I still have my Bluetooth headset in. So I did the scene. There's a one Hallmark movie where you see me in one take. I don't have a Bluetooth headset in, and
And then
then
the other one you do.
yeah, I do. Yeah. Because I
That's
forgot,
funny.
and nobody
But yeah,
caught it.
I think you're the one who told us while we were studying that
Yeah,
um listen the best way to learn your lines, or one of the best ways,
yeah,
is to listen to them while you're doing your chores.
yeah,
Like anything. You can
yeah,
be vacuuming the house and
yeah,
doing dishes, listening to them. And I've started to do that after you
yeah.
told us. Yeah.
You know what I do now too? Like if it's nice and warm outside, I'll go for a walk. Go for a walk around the block. Go for a walk in the park,
Yeah.
and you do look insane. You do. You're talking to yourself.
Yeah.
The great thing now, because of the pandemic, you can wear a mask. I love that.
That's true.
Walking down the
You
street
wear a
wearing
mask,
a
nobody
mask.
can see your mouth.
I know exactly. So I'm
Yeah.
going like, no, you
Yeah.
don't. And meanwhile, people are like, oh, he's got a mask on. But and I don't mind. Here's the thing. You remember we were talking about judgment. I'm
Yeah.
sure people watch me walking down the street going, is he on his phone? No, he's not on his phone. What's he doing? I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm just walking down. But it really, walking around, learning your lines, it really, really does help. If there's something about movement through a large space that for some reason really helps learn your lines. And that's how the ancient Greeks, there was a memorization technique that the ancient Greeks used to use, where as you're memorizing something, you imagine yourself moving through a space,
Yeah.
and that actually really helps you. For some reason, that's the way the brain works. I
I'm
don't
that
know.
type of actor.
What was that, sorry?
I'm that type of actor.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learn my lines while I do something.
Yeah. And it really, really
So
helps.
I have to, when I practice my scripts, I have to basically do the action
Yep.
that I'm thinking I'm gonna be doing during
Yep.
the scene. And
Really helps.
then I'll learn them like that. If I don't do anything, then I'm like, it's almost like I'm looking in my head
Yep.
to see the image of what was written on the paper.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that doesn't work for me. So
Yep.
It's just like I have to do it while I do something.
Yeah.
So if I'm like talking to you and I have to be playing with something,
Mhm.
then I'll learn my lines doing like that.
Absolutely. And it
Right?
really helps.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So that,
Definitely.
because I keep saying to my students, because every now and again, my students, they'll do a scene and then they'll make a mistake or they'll forget their lines.
Hmm.
And I'll say, cut. And the student will say, but I know my lines. I learned my lines so hard. I know them. And I said, I don't want you to know the lines. I want you to be the lines. I want them to be
Yeah.
so ingrained inside of you that that's just who you are. That's just, and so I work
Yeah.
so hard on really memorizing them. And when you get older, it gets harder.
Yeah.
Oh, wait till you're 55. Oh, it's crazy. But I really, but you know what? Um, um, Peter O'Toole. That was Peter
Yeah.
O'Toole's technique because he did a production of Pygmalion here in
Mhm.
Canada many years ago, and he walked in to rehearsals with his all of his lines memorized. And one of the other actors said, Peter, and he was old back then. You know, he was
Yeah.
like 55. And one of the actors said, well, how did you, like, how come you know your lines so well? And he says, hard work. Peter O'Toole said, it's just hard work. You just, every day, you just,
It is hard.
yeah.
It is hard.
And
I
yeah,
feel like and that's also a thing that is not known. It's the amount of work that you have to do. So it's not only that actors are not liars, they're actually speaking from experience. It's also that they are working very, very, very
really,
hard
yeah,
to be able to.
yeah,
And I can just imagine like we were doing like what 2 minute pieces in school.
yeah,
Like imagine learning a script of like 10
yeah, I
episode
know.
TV show.
Yeah,
It's so much, and you're not always filming in order
yeah,
of what you're seeing on TV. So
yeah,
that means like you might be filming the last episode before the
yeah,
first one, and you still have to know the script. You have to know where your character is.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a lot of work to go through,
yeah.
and
And to be honest,
but I love it.
yeah, I love it
I
too.
love I love how it's also like it makes you feel more uh it gives you the chance to value yourself
Yeah.
in a way because you're
Mhm.
like, wow, I've accomplished this, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
It's
And it's so hard to accomplish.
yeah, it is,
Uh,
definitely.
And
What
that's
was
why we get paid the money we get paid. I know some
yes.
people say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe so and so got paid, $1 million." I'm like, "Well, it was a Marvel movie, and they spent 5 months going to the gym 5 hours a day and eating poached chicken and broccoli like
Mhm.
10 times a day and doing fight rehearsal and learning another language and learning to speak Klingon." And so
Yeah,
like and then when they get on set, they do 10, 15-hour days
yeah,
jumping around in a costume, doing costume fittings, and yeah, that's why they get paid millions of dollars because they work
yeah.
really, really hard.
But you were on this show, you were on the I mean, you've been on many shows, but like you were on this show, the was it Krypton? I
No,
can't remember.
I've been on a few superhero shows. I've been on Teen Titans, and I've been on The
That might be
Boys.
the one.
Yeah, yeah,
In I think it might be Teen Titans.
yeah,
You were playing somebody's dad.
yeah. That was it. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Titans.
So that I remember I was in class. I was studying at TFS
Yeah.
and I was watching the episode and I saw you. I was like, "Hey, that's my teacher."
Wait, wait was that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I know this guy.
yeah.
Um I think that was I don't know why, but I'm coming in with the question, okay? So,
Mm,
have you ever had this moment where you're meeting an actor
mm,
and you're like, not that you're a fan of that actor, but like you're just like realizing that you're working with that actor. Like it's just like
yeah,
the feeling. It's just how how
absolutely.
how do you like? What was your experience? I'm just curious to know because it happened to me. Like I was like. I saw you and I was like, oh my God, like this is a show that I value, and like my
Mm.
teachers in this, like,
It happens to me every time.
yeah,
Every time. Not a single I remember I was doing a movie called Total Recall with Colin Farrell,
yes, yeah,
and meeting Colin Farrell, I just, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's exactly and he's taller than I thought he was." For some reason, I thought he was short, but no, he is a really tall guy.
yeah,
And then I meet him, we do a scene, I turn around the corner, and there's Kate Beckinsale.
no,
And she is stunningly gorgeous. Like, I mean, I love my wife. My wife is way more attractive, but
yeah,
just all of a sudden turning the corner and seeing her, she said, "Oh, hello." And I said, and then I walked away.
that's perfect.
Yeah. And I will never
I
meet her
guess
again. That's the only
I
thing I
guess
will
like
ever say.
meeting them in person is also different than meeting you through a camera.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been in Ottawa this summer, and I was sick,
Mhm.
unfortunately, so I couldn't come. That's where the conversation about my old job started.
Yeah.
I was in a burnout, so I couldn't come and see you, but I wish I could have. And I was like, when you come back, just let me know. We'll like
I'm
go
always
take.
back.
Yeah,
I always come
fine.
back.
Just text me when you're back.
Absolutely.
Now you have my phone number. And
Yeah.
talking
Totally.
about phone number,
Mhm.
somebody on Instagram told me
Mm.
to tell you, or asked me to tell you, well, his name is Hunter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
And
Hunter.
he was like, yeah. And he was like, why the hell did he not call me back? Yeah. He's
When did
like,
he
he
call
has
me?
my number.
When did he
Well,
call me?
actually, I don't think he called you. I think he's just waiting a call from you.
Oh, I would love to. Hunter's great. I worked with
Yeah.
him. He was my TA. He was a student of mine first, and then he was a TA.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's a really great guy, and he
He
works in the
is.
industry as well. He's a really good actor.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
And I've done a few so we have like this group where we have like script reading.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I haven't been in a long time. I'm
Right.
gonna be honest,
Yeah.
but um, but when I used to live in Toronto, I used to go.
Yeah.
And and I just enjoyed those time, and we also hanged out a few times. We went out
Mhm.
in the city and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I really used to enjoy it, and very recently they asked me if I was gonna come back, and I said yeah. But I've just been working on so many things on myself, not necessarily in
Mhm.
the industry and all of that, but on myself, that I've kind of put that aside. But yeah, he wanted me to tell you to
Mhm.
call him.
Absolutely. I would
Yeah,
love to
I
keep
think
in touch with him.
I think he misses you.
Yeah. No, he was great. They're actually, I love working at the Toronto Film School, there, and
Yeah.
I love this interacting with people, former students who are now out in the world, and just checking in with each other. I love that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've done a few jobs
Mm.
outside of the school.
Mhm.
But I haven't been in anything big
Yeah,
yet.
that's okay. There's
I'm
time
gonna
for that.
manifest it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And we'll talk
definitely. But
after. I'll give you some pro tips on pitching a TV series
yeah,
after.
yeah, of course, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
No problem.
Um, but yeah, so what other project are you working on right now? Because I know you sent me one on
Mhm.
Messenger.
Yes.
I'm
So
guessing that was filmed in Ottawa.
no, it's filmed in Toronto.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it would have been filmed in Ottawa because you were talking about Quebec.
Yeah, it's funny. There there are a couple of things that I've wanted to do in Ottawa.
Mhm.
I just have to convince the Great Canadian Theatre Company to put it on, but I'm gonna cross my fingers. But
Yeah, manifesting.
exactly, yeah, exactly. Um, but I'm actually writing a play about artificial intelligence right now, um,
Cool.
and about how it's what it really is. Because I think people are very scared of artificial intelligence, but
Yeah,
they should be more scared about the human beings using artificial intelligence.
yeah,
Like artificial intelligence, to give you the sort of the Reader's Digest version of my play.
yeah,
Um, the play is just about how artificial intelligence is simply it's just a counting tool. Like it's just I've actually loaded up an artificial intelligence on my computer here that I'm using right now. And it's basically, you've got a large language model and then you've got the data set, and you just put them together and it spits out information. And it really, it seems as though it's communicating to us in a lifelike fashion, where it seems as though it understands what we're saying, and it is able to respond to us in very complex ways. But really what it is, it's a little program that looks at one image that has a number to it, or like a numerical value to it. And it looks at that image and goes, okay, well, that numerical value usually is matched with this image that has this numerical value. And it does that like billions of times a second.
Yeah.
So it doesn't understand the words that it's saying. What it understands is that that word has a numerical value that is usually attached to another word of numerical value. And it shifts those around, like I said, millions and millions of times a second. And so it appears as though it's communicating to us and understanding what we're saying, but it has no idea what it's saying.
Yeah.
It's not a consciousness, and people are afraid of it. The thing that AI has the power to do, however, is to be used by nefarious individuals to steal your voice and then call up your mom and then say, hey, it's me, Catherine, how's it going? So I'm in Taiwan and I need $10,000. Send it to me in Apple gift cards, And your mother's like, oh
But
my God, that sounds like my daughter.
that exists already. That already existed.
Yeah.
Like I know a few people that got scammed
Yep.
with
Me too.
that.
Yeah.
Prank calls. Prank calls are also like very similar.
And
But yeah, I think that's great that you're doing that, because of course, I mean, artificial intelligence for me, because I grew up in this era,
mm,
is when you're telling me about it, it's more like Terminator.
yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like um not community, but the oh, how do you say that?
Ouais.
Um
C'est quoi en français?
I don't even know how to say it in French.
Ah, okay.
It's like it oh my god, like your surrounding, like
Mhm.
you grew up in certain beliefs in certain
Yeah.
environments, and it
Yeah.
teaches you what to be scared of.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would be afraid of that, because all I've known from it is
Yeah.
basically Terminator.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's like what I'm
Yeah.
imagining. Like later on in the future, we'll be like chased by robots, like
Yeah.
and it's silly to me to think about that right now,
Mhm.
but who knows. So like, yeah, I think
Mhm.
it's great that you're doing this, because it's educating people
Yeah. I
a
think it's
lot
so
more.
funny because I think, like with the Terminator, like what they don't deal with in the movie, like in real life, if you had a Terminator walking around, like our battery technology is terrible. The battery would last for a couple of hours, and then
Yeah.
eventually you'd be like, and then you'd stop until we change his battery. So
Yeah,
I'm
and
not
it
worried.
needs a spot to charge also.
Exactly.
Unless it's solar energy.
Exactly. Yeah. And even
then we're
then, when it's
then we're
nighttime, what are
fine.
you going to do?
Yeah, that's true. But
Yeah.
then if they saved enough energy from the sun during the day, they'd be able
You
to
know
chase
what?
us.
I think you've got a great patent. I think you've got an invention. You could make a lot of
Yeah.
money right there.
We have a 3D printer here, so I'm gonna start making a robot.
Yeah. Make a Terminator. It'll be your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now people are gonna be scared of me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, again, it's a human being using
Yeah.
technology, not
Yeah.
technology using us. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, I
that's
think
my
it's
big
great.
thing.
I think it's great that you're doing that.
Mhm.
Are you planning on, so it's a play, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to be doing a reading of it in November with a theater
Okay.
company called Night Swimming.
Yeah,
And then next year, I'm hoping to do a production of it. And we'll see.
that's
We'll see.
cool.
And I'm
Yeah.
also
Well,
working on a short film that I want to direct as well.
okay. What's
Yeah.
it about? Can you say?
I can. So the short film is about a guy who's got a terminal illness, and he decides to go the route of medically assisted suicide. So he's chosen his day when he's going to pass away, and he gathers his friends together because he can only have one person by his bedside when he passes away, and he doesn't want to choose. So he gets all his friends to play games, and whoever wins gets to be at his bedside when he dies. And so it's this short film about how all these people are like, okay, well, I guess he's gathered us here to do this. And so they all play these games, and then somebody wins. And they're like, oh, I
Yeah.
won. Oh, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they originally don't know why
Yeah. They have
they're
no idea
playing
why they're
that
there.
game.
Yeah. And then they
Wow.
get there, and then they realize why they're there. And it's sort of based on some personal experiences of mine of like, because I'm at an age now where people are passing away more than before. And,
Yeah.
just reminding yourself that, you know, tell the people that you love them while you can, you know?
Yeah.
'Cause
I've been I was at my grandmother's side when she died.
Mhm,
When she gave her last breath.
mhm,
It was a pretty traumatic experience because I got to see her once everything was done. So I mean, like she was dead in her hospital bed.
mhm.
Um, but in it taught me that it's crazy to say because I feel like everybody says that, but like it taught me that life is so short and
Yeah,
you've got to make sure that the people that you love know that you love them.
yeah, yeah, you really do.
And
It's so short. Even when you're in
and
your 20s, it's so short.
yeah, and you cannot wait for people who don't want to be there to be there. You still got to keep going with your life, and whenever they are open to being there, they'll just come back, right? So or they'll be there. So it's just you can't life can just stop because something like that happens. But yeah, I like that idea of
Yeah,
a short yeah.
yeah, it's a nice little short film I'm gonna shoot with some friends of mine. And then, yeah, I've got plans for next year that you'll see. But after this, I'll give you a little discussion about how to pitch a series, because that's what I'm doing too. And we'll cross our fingers that both of our series gets picked up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Well, I
yeah,
have to get I do have to get the approval of
yeah.
the the
The
writer of the
script.
book.
Yeah.
I did talk to her because I was supposed to use that's why I feel so bad because I actually talked to her and she gave me permission to write a script for TFS.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, for the last term we had to make
Yeah,
this movie.
yeah,
And I was gonna base it on that, but I ended up not going through the last I think 2 terms.
right.
So yeah, like and then I just kept this idea that I'm just gonna finish it and then I'm gonna show it to her and I'm gonna get her approval if she
Yeah,
wants to or not, and then I'm gonna keep going with that. But I'm also writing something else, so
yeah, good. Yeah,
I've got 2 scripts.
that's the thing. I was going to say for anybody watching, make sure you keep writing, keep working on stuff. Never ever stop. You know.
Yeah. Do you like when you write, do you get um like do you have how can I say that? So do you have one at some point do you have a problem with your writing where you have to stop and question? So for me, for example, it's when a character speaks.
Mhm.
So I have to stop. I have to kind of live it in my head for a few days and then I can write it down because I have to figure that would this character say this? You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um or just scripting action. Like
I
the action description.
What I do for
Yeah.
the very first draft is I just write without thinking about it. I just
Yeah.
get it out. The first draft is like, and they call it like a vomit draft. So good dialogue, bad dialogue, I don't care. I just need to
Mm.
get it out. And I write it and write it right, boom, boom, boom. And then I'm finished. I'm done. I get to the end. And some of the dialogue is horrible. And the hardest thing is I want to stop and make the dialogue better. I want to stop and go, oh, that's terrible dialogue. How can I write that? Oh, I'm such a terrible writer. I should fix this. But I'm like, no, Andrew, stop. Don't fix it. Don't do anything. Just get to the end. That's what you're supposed to make. With the first draft, get to the end. That's it. So I get
Yeah.
to the end and I breathe and I take a break. I put it, leave it on my computer. I go play some video games, relax, give myself a little gift for finishing it. And then once I'm finished with my video game, I come back and that's when I start like doing the real work of the dialogue and thinking about it and going, what would they say then? That's what I'm doing right now with this AI script that I'm working on. Because I just was like, get to the end, get to the end, get to the end. And now I'm going over it. I've got a chunk of the very first speech right now that I'm just working over and over. It's on I went to go see a play last night, and during the
Okay.
intermission, I pulled out my
Okay.
tablet and I
Yeah.
started working on the dialogue.
Oh my god.
People
What was
sitting
the
standing
play you
around.
went to see?
I went to go see a play called The Art of Being Fabulous by Sandra
Okay.
Caldwell. It was fantastic. It was a play about her journey coming out as a trans woman, and it's an
Okay.
amazing play. There's music, and there's lights and imagery and musicians. It was fantastic. But in the intermission, or like when the show's not on and I'm outside, I'm just like on my tablet writing away. Do, 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 do.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. And
And that,
people were judging me. You know what? I'm sure people were judging me. I didn't care.
yeah. I
Anyway,
have to stop caring so much.
yeah.
I guess.
Judge. I've got an opening speech to finish writing. That's what I care about more than people judging me. Absolutely.
Do you think that you find easier to write the end
Yeah.
or the beginning?
I mean,
Yeah.
I like writing the end first. I do.
Yeah.
So that very first draft, that's what I want to get to. Like I've got an idea of what the end is. So I just write, and then I get to the end. And I'm like, yeah, okay, this is the ending that I want.
Yeah.
And then when I start rewriting, when I go over it very like piece by piece, looking at it like through a microscope,
Yeah.
sometimes I get to the end and I'm like, you know what? I've got to change the end now. I've got to change it. I really liked it before, but now I've got to change it. And that's okay.
Yeah. It doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I would say. Like, save the thinking about a speech or the writing and stuff for the second draft. For the very first draft, just go, go, go. It's like a sprint. It's like run. Because the second draft is the marathon, The second, third, and fourth draft is a marathon. The very first draft, it's the 100-yard dash. It's just go. Get to the end of it as fast as you can with all the bad writing. And you've got to, and it's hard. I'm 56 years old, and even to this day, allowing myself to write bad is hard.
Yeah.
Because you feel it. You feel like, oh, that's so terrible. And you start to judge yourself, Start to say, am I a good writer? I feel like a terrible writer. Oh, what's going on? It's like, of course it's bad writing. It's the first time you've written. Of course I always say the job of the first draft is to be the worst draft. That's what it's supposed to be. So enjoy how bad it is.
Yeah.
Make it even worse. Make it worse. Make it like, oh, this is terrible. Oh, I've done that. I've written a scene where it's just like, this is going to be the worst dialogue ever. I love you. I love you too. Let's get married and have babies. Yay! You just write that dialogue. Write it, and then get to the end of the scene. Just keep going. Just keep going to the end of the play. And
That's
look
amazing.
at it. And when you look at it, you go, that's terrible. Wow, that's really terrible. And then you sit back and go, okay, now I've got to make it from being terrible dialogue to being good dialogue. How would I do that? And that's when you, like, for days, you wonder, like, what can I do? What if it seems like this or like that? But yeah. So that's the one bit of advice I'd give you. And it's the final draft that you write is the one right before you die. Like, you never stop having ideas. My play Riots that I wrote when I was 25.
Yeah.
Last year I came up with a solution for a problem that I had in the third act.
Wow.
And that's like 30 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
do you wish you could go back or like, do you wish not to go back, but like, do you wish you could just redo it? Like a remake of it?
Or let me put it this way. Of course, I wish that the draft I had, I come up with when I was 20, 25. But maybe the change that I made, I could only make after living for 30 years.
That's true. Yeah.
So if there
But
was a time
it would
machine,
also show how you've grown since
yeah,
then.
yeah,
It would show, this is what I've done at this age, and then this is
yeah,
what I've done now.
yeah, yeah,
That this is what I've understood, and now it changed in this way.
yeah,
I think I think it'd be great.
yeah. And when you become 55 and you're looking back at your plays and stuff, trust me, you will see how much you've grown. And it's
Yeah.
really weird. It's wild. It's like a snapshot of your brain, when you
Yeah.
were younger. It's really
And
interesting.
I also get this, okay? So I watched a few videos or a few sketches that we've done in TFS,
Mm,
like very recently.
mm,
And I I was judging myself a lot.
yeah.
But I was like, what is this?
Mm,
Like, what is this? Like, I didn't think it was either that good or either that bad.
mm,
And I I do that when I read, because I always listen back to the podcast after, because I
mm,
hear stuff, and then if I can like learn from those, or
mm,
I'll see things that I'll learn from.
mm.
I say like a lot.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
Yeah, and then
I
I
like that.
listen to it. I'm telling my boyfriend, I'm like, see, I said
Uh-huh.
it again.
Yeah.
I said I'm just, I can't bear it. Like, it's too many. Like, anyway, so I all that to say, I don't even know what
Mhm.
I wanted to say. Um,
Oh, I know exactly what you want to say because it's a snapshot of your brain
but it's
back
weird.
then. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but it's weird. It's not like what I imagined.
yeah, yeah. And that's okay. Like I struggle with accepting the good and the bad in me, the things that I am critical of.
Yeah,
And it's important. You have to be critical of yourself. You have to be honest with yourself and have an honest assessment of where you're at and where you want to be, which is
yeah,
fine. That's human. This is where I'm at now. And as a matter of fact, in the future, I want to be a better person. I want to improve my French. My French is like I've lost my French after being in Ottawa. So I want to work on that. And I want to get back into the gym. I want to make sure I eat properly. So there are certain things that you want to do in the future that you're not doing now, which is totally fine. But then you have to be careful of looking at yourself in the present and saying, "Oh, I'm so ugly and fat and I'm stupid." You know, you've got to stop yourself from saying that, and you've got to say, "Oh no, there's a place. We are all on a journey of growth, and
yeah,
that where I was when I was 23 is the beginning of my journey of growth, and that's where I was, and this
yeah,
is where I am now."
yeah,
And here's the thing: it's going to happen to you. Because also you'll look back when you have young children and there'll be a
yeah.
snapshot of you. There'll be a video of you with your young children, and you're going to go, "Oh my gosh,
That's what I look like.
yeah, that's what I look like. I had that hair. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, I remember being
Oh God,
tired.
yeah.
Wow, that's what's going to happen."
I do that to my parents.
Right.
Like, I'll look at I'll look at old pictures, and I'll be like, "Oh, you look like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
don't remember you looking like that."
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
fun. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I just want we're coming up to 2 hours now of
Yeah.
footage.
Hmm.
um, but I just want to know, um, what what would you say makes you you and makes you different from everybody else? What makes you you as an individual?
Oh, everything.
Everything.
Everything about me. And that's what and this is something that I tell my students, especially the film acting students.
Yeah.
When you audition for a movie or a TV show, don't try to figure out what they want to see. Don't try
Yeah.
to figure out, okay, this is the character that they want to see, or they want me to be something different from who I am. It's completely the
Yeah.
opposite. Everything about you is uniquely you because no, there has never been another you in the existence of the entire universe in the past, and there never will be again in the future of the entire universe.
That's
I don't
true.
care what the scientists say. There could be multiple universes, there could be multiverses or whatever, different versions of you. Well, guess what? They're different versions of you in a multiverse. This is the only
Yeah.
one in this universe of you. So celebrate
Yeah.
it. Because, and I tell my students to repeat this mantra, you are a gift to the universe.
Mhm.
You are something that is in the universe. You're beautiful. You're a gift to the universe. So embrace everything about you, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. I struggle with it every day, but just
Mhm.
embrace everything about you.
Well, coming from somebody that deals with every day,
Hmm.
it's yeah,
It's a struggle.
nice to hear. Yeah.
Keep on that journey. Just point your ship towards that northern star of reminding yourself that you're a gift and that everything about you is precious. And make the best of your life as best you can.
Well, I want to thank you, Andrew, for coming on to the podcast and
Thank you.
talking with me. And I would be open to doing this again with you because
Anytime.
I feel like there's so much more we could talk about.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, just a big thank you. And I
Yeah.
hope everybody that's been watching
Mhm.
or that will watch it will learn something
I hope so too.
from our conversation and know that they're not alone.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's what's very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolument.
Yeah. And also, I want to thank you because I feel like you're able to be vulnerable and open, and
Mhm.
that's something that I've stayed with for a very long time from you,
Mhm.
from the classes that we had, and and I like your honesty,
Yeah, it's important.
and I appreciate it.
Yeah. I try. I struggle to try to do the best I can.
Well, you're
Thank
doing
you for
pretty
this
good.
opportunity. Thank you. This has been really awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just close the live. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say goodbye to everybody who's been watching and who's gonna be
Bye.
watching. And then we'll meet in the after studio.
Yeah.